welcome to Talk a Good Game. It's a match preview of Arsenal against West Ham United. The Premier League is back on Boxing Day, unfortunately. So, kick it off, as always, as we have done for the last 7 years. What's your thoughts on Arsenal, please?
Yeah, I think it's been remarkable, actually. So, obviously, I want West Ham to win the league. And if West Ham can't win the league, then my next choice is whoever didn't win the league last year. So I don't like monopolies in any sport. It's not nice to watch a sporting event and not know the outcome. So the thing I dislike also on top of that is all the money that's in it. So people go and buy it. So there's a lot to like about Arsenal, I've got to say, this season, because they haven't done it with the loads of money that many other clubs are trying to throw at it. Well, they haven't. I know you're probably going to reel off some signings recently. I'm pretty sure if you went back 10, 15 years, they've just not spent anything near what the other clubs have spent. And I think he's done a remarkable job, Arteta, actually. Really remarkable job. So he's managed to do a blend of something which is quite impressive. So he's managed to sort of galvanise a lot of the players who, maybe someone like Xhaka, who was out on his arse at Arsenal, really unpopular with the fans, gets a tune out of him. Maybe a player like Partey, who I know they bought for decent money from Atletico Madrid, but looked like he was drifting a bit. Managed to get him back on track. Bring through some youngsters. I know Smith Rowe has sort of disappeared a little bit from the scene, but brought him through quite well. Certainly has done that much with Saka and Martinelli. These are young players that he's brought through there as well. And then he's gone and got someone like Odegaard, who was a wonder kid at 15. I think Real Madrid may even signed him at sort of 16 years of age, something like that. Again, he drifted. He's managed to bring him back, get him focused. And I like the way he's done it. He's basically done a bit of everything. Bit of buy-in, bit of youth players, and a bit of sort of regeneration from, players that were already there before he came in. It's a really good blend of how to build a team. I'm very impressed with what he's done.
I've just done a quick Google, and it's not the most reliable thing in the world, but two different pages have said the same. 440 million they've spent in the last 5 years, Arsenal, net spend, which is only second by Manchester United. They've spent a lot of money. The last 2 summers, they've spent big backing Arteta, but they needed it. Yeah. Arsenal needed it, and probably before that 5-year period, you'd probably find Arsenal quite low down the net spend. I say low down; they'll still be in the top 10, but behind their peers at the top of the table as well. So they needed this massive injection of cash. They needed to get these star quality players in. But you can only really do it if you've got the manager and you're willing to back the manager. And they've got that in Arteta as well. There was pressure on him. The start of last season, they didn't start particularly well, Arsenal, but they stuck with him. He climbed them up the table. And they're reaping the rewards for it now. And I agree what you say about the squad, the way that it's made up. And like you said, it's got a little bit of everything in there. They've got the sort of the broken player that Arteta's molding. They've got the players coming through from the academy. There's a few other players sitting on the touchline waiting for the chance. There's been some real clever signings in there, some big ticket signings in there too. And it's got the right blend. And I think Arteta, I like the way he dealt with the Aubameyang situation as well, from an outsider without knowing everything, but what you pick up and what you read. I thought, great, there's a manager in control of that club. There's sort of problem, get him out of the club, get him gone, and then we'll go again kind of thing. And I think they play brilliant football, and they're really enjoyable to watch as well. And there's a lot of teams surprise you for whatever reason. Some are all quite the World Cup surprised a lot of people, including myself. Arsenal, there's an element of surprise there. I was confident they were going to get top 4 football this season because of from what we saw last season, plus the investment in the summer, bringing in the striker that they've been waiting for that could get the best out of the likes of Martinelli and Saka. But they have done a hell of a lot better than I expected. To be top of the table on Christmas Day is miraculous when you're up against Man City, who in the summer bought one of, if not the best striker in the world. Yeah. So to take on the team that finished the league and strengthened in the summer and go ahead of them, I think Arteta's doing a fabulous job. I guess the big question, Gonzo, is will they win the title? Not can they, because I know you'll say yes they can, but will they win the title?
I'm going to go with yes.
Ooh.
I'm going to go with yes. And Before anyone thinks I'm a massive fanboy for Arsenal, I'm not. I don't like him. Also, don't. I think the manager's excellent, but utterly ruthless. Don't like him. But the first, I mean, if you want to know how ruthless Arteta is, he literally dragged his injured player back onto the football pitch against West Ham to try and cheat. I mean, he didn't try and cheat. He did cheat. How he didn't get a ban for that, I have no idea. You know, and that's worse than any dive you will ever see, what you saw there. He literally dragged his injured player, onto the pitch. He was off the pitch. So it was basically he'd get the game stopped. That's an utterly ruthless man. Utterly ruthless. So I just want to point that out. I don't want people to think I'm a massive fanboy for Arsenal. I'm really not. But I think they can do it. I really do. I've looked at it. And I don't know why I would think this, and I've got no grounds, no evidence. But there's been times where I've thought he's maybe making Pep Guardiola nervous. That Arsenal are making Man City nervous. And you're right, you know, the whole Haaland thing, amazing, really, really good. But they just keep on and they keep churning it out. And then you've got this story, this sort of subplot of Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus, which is right man at the right time. And that is Jesus good enough to be a first choice and the main man at almost any club, aside from perhaps Man City and PSG or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Almost any other club, he's the main guy, but not that one. So what happens is his previous coach, who knows how he plays, is manager of Arsenal. It's the right guy, right time. So when Arteta says to Jesus, "You come and play for me. I can play to your strengths. I know all about you." It's just a match made in heaven. It was almost the only place for him to go, and it's, you know, and then becomes a well-trodden path for Zinchenko. I don't know which one was first and which one was second, but doesn't really matter. I really think they can do it.
I'm going to say no, but it's more just feeling than anything. It's more just what vibing is going to happen between now and the end of the season. And I think the World Cup has been good and bad for certain players and for certain clubs as well as countries, obviously. I think one of the biggest things that's going to come out the back of it is perhaps Man City or Pep using Alvarez a little bit more than he has been. Now, it's understandable why he's not used him loads yet. He's had enough game time, but not loads because of Haaland. But Alvarez was one of the best players at that tournament. And I couldn't help but sit there thinking, bloody hell, how has City done this? They've got two of the best strikers, two of the best young strikers in the world they sold those two players to Arsenal and made a profit at the end of it. And I thought, bloody hell, how have they done that? And I don't know why. Maybe it's because of experience. It's still quite a young Arsenal squad, and that will do them good stead in longer term at the Emirates. But Man City just know how to go and grind out the title, and I've just got a feeling it'll end up at the Etihad. But regardless of what happens this season, Gonzo, do you think Arsenal are sort of primed for longevity to some extent?
They got nothing to moan about anymore, mate. I think, I really do. And I know that, because I think the Arsenal fan TV and all the stuff that grew up around it, I think it's I think I'm not talking about people who have been going to Arsenal for years. You know, people have been going to Arsenal since the 70s and 80s, not talking about those. But the modern Arsenal fan is very much, the foundations are of a moan up. Do you know what I mean? I don't think they've got nothing to moan about anymore. They can enjoy it. I think they are. I think they've got a manager with vision, and they've got, again, it's not just moan about the club, moan about the owners, moan about everything. The owner seems to be okay. If that's spend up, I've got no reason to think that what you say is untrue, and I stand corrected on that. That's supporting the manager. It doesn't matter. And, when you're doing that and you've got some really good youth players coming through, they brought the young lad, I can't even remember his name, earlier on in the season, they brought a really young lad on who played, who sort of come from nowhere, and then, he looked really good as well. They've got some real promise. And if they can do that, and what you said was over the last 4 years, 400 and something.
5 years, 440 million, according to one of the top websites I clicked on. But
okay, well, if you're going to buy shrewdly and you have £100 million a year to spend, and you've got great youngsters coming through, and you've got a really good manager, cutting edge, right at a, sometimes David Moyes gets called a dinosaur. Actually, it's not sometimes. On a daily basis, David Moyes gets called a dinosaur. this is a guy at the cutting edge of tactics and all the the new advancements in the game and switch doing weird things with fullbacks and all this sort of stuff. So they've got some promising times ahead, I think, Arsenal.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. I think they look like they're set up for long-term success. You look at the players and you look at the manager, you think, well, why would they, barring any major incident, why would they go elsewhere? Because they're heading in the right direction. There is cash injections into the club now. They are investing in the playing squad. And they've got the foundation now. It's about building from here and going forward. And can they sustain another £100 million spend up? Because all you have to do is think about it. Pepe and Aubameyang, that's 100 million net they've written off essentially because they spent and bought Aubameyang, let him go for free, and Pepe's still at the club, but it costs 72 million and not really getting utilised. So it's easy to waste money. But the last two transfer windows have been big successes for Arsenal generally, and you look at Saliba, buying him, loaning him out, bringing him back, and he's one of the best centre backs in the league. It's fantastic business actually. So yeah, good times could be here to stay for Arsenal. But the problem is, I guess the other clubs around them are also strengthening at the same time. Last question on Arsenal before we talk about our team, Gonzo. Please, Meyer.
Well, Saliba, you just mentioned one there. He's been really impressive. Anytime I've seen him play, that's for sure. I think Partey's played really well. Whenever I've seen him, he looks, he looks almost unplayable sometimes in central midfield. Got all the attributes you need there. Really like Martinelli, by the way. I think he's really good. And then you bring in Jesus in there, who is a remarkable player. I really do. And it's a bit of a shame, really, isn't it? It's you've got this freak in Haaland, who has become the barometer by which all other strikers are judged, and that's a hard one. But sort of take him out of the equation. Jesus is really, really good. And the thing about Jesus, he does the unexpected. He does it early. Jermaine Defoe and Robbie Fowler used to do very early. Whatever they would do it early. They'd do it quick, and they wouldn't need a lot of space to do whatever they were about to do. Quite unorthodox, actually, in the way that they did it. I really like him. I think he's an excellent player, but there's going to be nothing controversial about that.
Yeah, the two wingers for me, Martinelli on one side, I think is terrific. I think he's one of my favourite non-West Ham players to watch in the league. Very direct, very fast. He's almost like the next generation of winger, I think. I think he's almost ahead of the game a little bit, where he's not this inverted winger, which seems to be the thing at the minute. And the old wingers used to just go by their man on the touchline. I think he's a bit of both, actually. I think he's playing, he's right-footed, playing on the left, but he's able to go down the wing as if he's left-footed. I think it's remarkable, and he must be impossible to defend against. I couldn't think of a winger I'd rather not come up against less than Martinelli, because you just don't know.
CeeLo Kehrer will have something to say about that, my friend.
Well, we'll get on to that in a minute, but it terrifies me, the prospect of Martinelli going up against whoever plays right back for us, because you don't know if he's going to go on the outside and the inside. It doesn't matter. And then he's got his pace, he's got skills, he works really hard. There's barely a weakness in Martinelli's game. I've seen him do nothing for 25 minutes, turn up for 5 and win the game for Arsenal, and that's a sign of a top player. He frightens me. And I think Saka was possibly England's best player. Bellingham aside, I think Saka was possibly England's best player. I think Maguire had a good tournament as well, but the difference is you don't have confidence Maguire is going to carry that on it to Man United, but you watch Saka and he's going to carry that on into Arsenal. I mean, he was playing like that for Arsenal, went to the World Cup, continued doing what he's doing. He's going to continue it as he goes back to the Emirates as well. And I think I forget how old he is sometimes when it comes, the 21-year-old. What? The guy's playing like he's 27 or something. He turned. Hernandez was one of the best left backs in that tournament. And Saka turned him inside out for 90 minutes. Well, however long he was on the pitch until Southgate withdrew him. But Saka gave him a hell of a game down there. And I was watching that game just thinking, I'm dreading watching this. I'm just dreading it on Boxing Day, watching that Saka turn up. And lastly, shout out to Ben White, playing in a new role at right back. And I think he's been
excellent.
I think he's been brilliant. I think he's really... this is Arteta making it his own. He's sort of taken some things from what he's done at Man City under Pep. But I'm not... Arteta's played Ben White there. Then you put a Man City and John Stones is playing right back. You think now you're copying Arteta. You're now copying your apprentice, because he hadn't really done. There was always Kyle Walker, Cancelo, whoever playing right back, and now Arteta's doing it. Other people are sort of, can we do that? Why is he playing a centre back at right back? I think Ben White's been brilliant, and I know he had the falling out with England and stuff like that, but he was somebody I felt should have been playing from the off at that tournament. But anyway, enough about Arsenal. Time to talk about West Ham. But before we do, this video is in collaboration with Betmate, the 6-a-side fantasy football where you can win big money. And this weekend, as West Ham take on Arsenal, the entry is £5. But if you join up using the Hammers Chat link or the Hammers Chat code, you use the code HC10. You put in HC10, you get £10 free credit to play with. So it's £5 to enter the Arsenal game. You pick your team. We'll show you ours in just a second, give you an idea of what you're doing. And the prize pot is guaranteed £1,000. Guaranteed £1,000 up for grabs in this fixture alone. So, Gonzo, we'll start with your team and talk me through it.
Well, it's a team made up of West Ham and Arsenal players, which is the premise of the game. That's what you're doing. You're picking from that particular fixture. I think it's a difficult one. I mean, probably no surprises there, bearing in mind the players I've just picked out. You would see that Saliba, Partey, and Martinelli are in there. Wasn't sure about picking Scamacca up front as a forward. We don't know about the injury. We're not sure. One thing I am sure about is that Jared Bowen is going to play. I think he's coming into form as well. I'm definitely certain Declan Rice is going to play. It was really hard to decide upon a central defender, but bearing in mind we don't really have any, I'm sort of thinking a Gerd will play, and we definitely know Fabianski will play. So that's basically it. I think it's as good a team as any, and probably better than yours.
Well, here is my team. I've also got Fabianski in goal. You get points for saves, so let's pick the busiest goalkeeper. Yeah. I've gone with Ben White and Gabriel at the back because, unlike Gonzo, I'm unsure on Saliba being available, given that he was in the France squad. Is he going to be around a week later? He didn't really play for France, so he should be okay, but we don't know. So I'm picking Ben White and Gabriel. In midfield, I've gone with Souček and Odegaard. You get points for tackles and interceptions. So Souček's going to be a busy boy on Monday night. So I've got him in there for that reason. And I agree with the Bowen and Martinelli as your two-prong attack. I've gone with the exact same. But it doesn't really matter what our teams are. You can change your team with 5 minutes until kickoff. So when the lineups are out, you can then go and amend your team in case there's any players not playing, etc. So don't worry, we've just done it early on, and we'll revisit it in the build-up show because Gonzo's probably going to have to change it depending on Saliba.
I'll change my captain just to let you know.
Yeah, but I say Declan Rice's captain was a strange shout, but anyway, would you like the West Ham team news?
I'd love the West Ham team. Tell me about Maxwell Cornet, my friend.
There's a lot of team news here. There's 4 lines of it. So,
brilliant. Okay.
Right. Aguero was on the bench for Morocco in the 3rd place playoff in the World Cup, which would insinuate he's possibly fit enough for Monday night. Paqueta, Rice and Kerr are expected back and available for West Ham United. Meanwhile, just like Saliba, there's question marks over the availability of Alphonse Areola as he made it to the final with France. Cornet is missing. Don't know where he is. We've been told he's out for a couple of games. So that's Arsenal and Brentford ruled out for him. We're waiting on Antonio and Scamacca, but the early vibes are that Scamacca is looking unlikely at this point for Monday's game at the Emirates. There is obviously no Kurt Zouma for West Ham as he underwent surgery during the World Cup period, and there's uncertainty over Adam Cresswell. He was still missing from the Fulham friendly after picking up a hamstring injury in the Cambridge game. So quite a lot of uncertain players. So David Moyes is going to have a little bit of a tough one planning for this one, as are we doing our teams.
Yeah.
But Gonzo, I think for our preview, we'll do everybody's fit, bar Cornet and Zouma.
Okay.
We'll assume everybody's available.
Good game. Okay, I like it.
Then it means that on the 22nd or something, you can do a video on the Fulham channel with an updated team news kind of video. So there you go. Tap in for you. Anyway, right, Gonzo, talk us through your team. Fabianski in goal?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Defense, what you wanting to do?
Soufal on the right. I would go with Keira and Agerd as centre halves, and I'll play Ben Johnson at left. Oh no, sorry. We think Cresswell's fit.
Yeah, well, assuming Cresswell's fit.
Assuming Cresswell. Okay. Sorry. Okay. In which case, I've changed it. In which case, I'll play Ben Johnson on the right. Keira and Agerd, and then Cresswell on the left.
Interesting. I've gone Soufal, Keira, Agerd, and Cresswell for this one. The right back's a tough one. For Arsenal fans that have made it this far in the preview, it's been our weak spot. Kerr's been our right back coming into the World Cup, but he's been poor. Ben Johnson and Soufal, neither have really nailed down that spot either. They've both had some opportunities. Ben Johnson less so. I think he's been used in other positions rather than right back. But Soufal's been given a little bit of that in the media. But do you know something? I quite like it, Gonzo. I quite like it. I don't know why. I think I'm desperate for anything that's going to give me a little bit of hope going into this game, in the Brentford game. And Soufal just having that bit of fire in his belly. I just thought I'm going to cling to that. I am taking that as something to cling to. And I think defensively, he's been fine this season. I've not really had any criticism over him defensively. It's just going forward. But against Arsenal, if your right back can do the defending part correct, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to be too fussed about his lack of delivery in the final third. That's for games against Brentford and Leeds where I'm looking for a bit more. But against Arsenal at the Emirates, if he can just do his defensive duties against Martinelli and do it right, that's good enough for me. So, that would be my back four. Midfield?
Paqueta and Rice.
And that's how you would line up. So you're going like a 4-2-3-1 for this one, are you?
Yeah, I want a number 10. I've got a number 10 in there, basically.
Who are you putting in the number 10 role then?
Lanzini.
Ooh, that's an attacking middle of the pitch there.
Gio, let me explain myself before we go on. You know the stats because you've done the stats. In all his time at Everton, in all his time at West Ham, he has never gone to a top 6 team and won away.
And his time at Man United.
Okay,
at Sunderland, but even at Man United, he didn't.
Right, 70-odd games, that's roughly right, yeah? 70-odd games. Right, it ain't worked, mate. It's not worked. You need to change something. You've gone defensive every single bloody time, all right? You're about to get sacked, right? If you don't do something different, it's likely to have exactly the same outcome as the past 70-odd games. So try something different or you're going to get sacked, all right? And it's as simple as that, really. And so, attack. All right, attack. That doesn't mean you have to. Doesn't mean a Gerd's got to attack and Kerr's got to attack. You can keep some there. You can even keep Declan Rice sat in front of back. Well, you can have 5 people stopping the opposition, but give them something to think about. You can even have Jared Bowen coming back and helping the fullback. It doesn't have to, but let's have some intent on it because I fear. And I'm speaking to David Moyes, who's not watching. I fear, Moyesy boy, that if you pick Dawson at centre back and then you pick Souček just in front and you do all that stuff that you normally do, you're screwed. So that's why I'm picking this team.
I'm not too dissimilar for me. I've got Flynn Downs in there because I'd like him as a defensive midfielder, just crowd the middle of the pitch, stop Odegaard getting on the ball, who's possibly been one of the most underappreciated players in the first half of the season, I think. I know you've just spoken about him, but generally I haven't seen too much praise regarding Odegaard's performances. So get Downs in there. And I've gone with Rice. And to be honest with you, I'm not fussed with who's next to Rice. Whether it's Paqueta for what he can do on the ball going forward, whether it's because of Souček, because of what he can do off the ball, or I've gone with Lanzini. He's lured me in. I will confess, I've been lured in with the friendlies that we've seen. I know it's only friendlies, but in those games, we were lacking a bit of quality. We were lacking something, but he had it. His passing was good. His tackling was good. And he's had a good European campaign with us this season as well. He probably deserves a crack at getting more minutes. I'd give him this game in there because we're not going to get the ball much against Arsenal. But when we do get it, we're going to have to use it well. I'm going to have to keep a hold of it. So Lanzini, Rice and Downs, that's a midfield three that can keep the ball, that can actually just calm things down a little bit, give the defence a break. And Lanzini's got for the reasons you've got him in, he is capable of playing that defence splitting pass, giving it to Bowen and Benrahma, because I'm pretty confident Gonzo's got them as well. Bowen and Benrahma in the areas we want them to get on the ball, which is in front of Arsenal's defence. Not on the halfway line, up against the midfielder with a fullback waiting behind. I'm not there, but actually giving them one-on-one opportunities against their immediate opponent. So, Gonzo, who's your front three then? Although I think it's going to be matching mine.
Yeah, the two that you just mentioned, plus Scamacca, if we're assuming that he's going to be fit. You absolutely have to and give them something to think about. Don't want to see these players too deep. I don't want to see them isolated. I want to see them I want to see all 3 of them in the box. Lots. That's what I want to see. Bowen cutting in and doing that lovely little shot on his left that he does. Clipping it in. I want to see the fullbacks getting crosses into Skamaka. I want to see Benrahma get a penalty. He can really shift the ball. That's what I want to do. Just get the ball. That's what I've been telling him to do. Drive into that box straight away. Do your trick. Get into that box. Do a trick. Do something. Basically, when that defender's coming in, move that ball quickly so he ends up not kicking the ball and he ends up kicking you. Get us a penalty. Because I think he's infinitely capable of that. And then when he's not doing that, get him driving to the byline, which he's done really well this season, and cutting it back. Those three players have the capacity to be really, really good. They just need a bit of a supply.
What are you looking for? Not from individuals, but generally, because obviously we're coming back now after a 6-week break, and the friendlies haven't offered up much encouragement in the way of any drastic changes, whether it be formation, whether it be style of play, whether it be players in different positions or something. It feels a bit like we've been watching what we've been watching all season in those friendlies. So what are you hoping to see in this game after the 6-week break?
Urgency and a realisation of the situation that we're in, an appreciation that this is a really weird Premier League season, and even the clubs that came up are looking pretty bloody good. It's actually, there are a lot of people saying, we won't get relegated. Well, okay, let's go and find 3 teams then, because I tell you what, it ain't an easy thing to do. Any one of those teams you might think can go on a little run. It looks like Villa were in it at the start. That won't happen to them now with their manager. Leicester were in it at the start. They're gone. The teams that are contesting those bottom places are becoming fewer and fewer. Granted, someone will probably go on a little run and drop down a bit. That may well happen. But an appreciation and some desperation that actually we are in a situation here. We really are. And that's what I want to see. Something different, not just in terms of tactics, but something different in terms of attitude and urgency, which results in some attacking. This is really, really important. You might as well, if we go in there and we go against Arsenal and we sit back and we defend and we defend and we defend and we lose, you might as well rip November and December out of the football calendar for West Ham and throw it away, because it's meant nothing. Nothing has been done. Nothing has changed. That's it. I want to see it in the team and the manager, the appreciation of the mess that we're in this season. That's what I want to see.
I completely agree. I want to see a blueprint that after the game, even if we lose after the game, you go, all right, we lost, but it was against a better side. But this worked, that worked. We tried this, we tried that. That's different. We can take that. And that's what we've just seen at the Emirates is good enough to beat Brentford. It wasn't good enough to beat Arsenal, but if we repeat it against Brentford, we'll get the 3 points. That's what I want. I always use that phrase, attacking responsibly. That's what I want to do against Arsenal as well, where we do commit some people forward, where we do actually have a go at them, and we don't have this attitude of let's keep it tight for an hour and then have a little pop at them, because we're usually 2 down by then and it's too late. We start having a go, and you then play into Arsenal's hands, because then they can play counter-attacking football. They're capable of doing both, and that's why Arsenal much better this season than last, because they can now break teams down that are sitting back against them. It's like, don't worry, we can get through you doing that as well now. And I am worried that we're just going to see a repeat of the Crystal Palace and Leicester performances just before the World Cup. I want to see something. I want to see things, plural. Something isn't enough anymore. We need to see plenty of evidence that the break has been good for West Ham, because the friendlies haven't offered up any encouragement whatsoever. No. And I know you could make an argument, well, some of the key players have been away at the World Cup. But surely the counter argument is, well, why aren't the players that trying to get those players' spots off them? Why isn't this player trying to break down the door and Nick Kerr's spot? The fact is that we've just been sitting here talking about how the 4 outfielders at the World Cup all walk back into the starting 11 is not a good thing. But that's the situation we're in. I am genuinely worried that we're just going to see a repeat in the last 6 weeks is going to feel like a waste immediately. I've already got that feeling that we haven't utilised it as best as we can. But I've got a feeling on Monday night it's just going to confirm that actually Monday that 6-week period was just a waste of time as far as West Ham's concerned, and that nobody really understands or is willing to do anything different because of the situation we're in. Are you confident?
I've been waiting for that one. No, not at all.
Have you got any optimism?
No. I think it's impossible in terms of the stuff we've already discussed historically, There's no confidence to be taken from his away games against these teams. He will go away and try and attack them. It's a hell of a thing. It's a hell of a thing to let's say he's done it and it's failed 72 times, right? Let's say it's that. Might be wrong. Might be 76. Might be whatever. Let's say 72 times. It's a hell of a thing to believe that it's going to come right on the 73rd time of anything after failing for that many. So but I do believe that's what we're going to see. I don't believe we're going to see anything overly different. So I can't take any comfort from the history of it. And I also don't take any immediate comfort from what I saw in the friendlies either. And I am reasonably concerned that anything that we might have seen in the World Cup is not going to provide any comfort either. For me, there was an epiphany there, because I don't claim to have an encyclopedic knowledge of the world game, European game. I watch West Ham, and that's what I do. So even then, we did see Pochettino a bit last season, but I wasn't fully aware of what he was. Watching that World Cup was enlightening for me. He's a central midfielder. And I would want David Moyes the same thing to happen. I feel we won't. So I don't think either historically, either in the friendlies or the World Cup, I feel he'll have learned nothing. And because of that, we lose the game.
Yeah, I've got no optimism. To have optimism, you've got to have a bit of evidence here. If you've got optimism just because you're a West Ham fan, that's fine. That's important. It's important to have that hope. But when you're talking about it as we are, and you're trying to back up any hope with evidence, there's none. As far as I'm concerned, the teams that we'd like to see, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's because it's the team that Moyes plays is going to be the one that matters. And I think we're going to see Dawson centre-back. And I think we're going to see Dawson struggle at centre-back. I think he's looked a lot slower in the friendlies, which I didn't know was possible. He's never been the quickest centre-back, but he seems to have lost just a second of almost reaction time rather than pace. I think Souček will play, and defensively that will be good. But then when we are in possession, we become throttled because of it, and we struggle with it. I think Fornals will be in that starting 11 somewhere, whether it's on the right or in the number 10 role. I think Fornals will start. But the early word is that Scamacca's not going to make Monday night, which is, that's our best striker. There's a chance Antonio won't make it either, so Bowen will be up front. And if that happens, Fornals will possibly be right wing. So we could easily be starting a game with Fornals on the right, Souček in the middle with Declan Rice and Flynn Downs running around the number 10 role again. It's perfectly possible that will be our starting 11. Creswell not playing left back as well would suggest that Emerson is likely to play left back. And if you spend 13 million on a left back in the summer, that should be the guy to replace him. But I've got no confidence in him up against Saka. I think Saka would be rubbing his hands thinking, let me at this guy. I'm going to take the piss for 90 minutes. I'm keep giving me the ball here. I'm oozing in confidence before I've even stepped through onto the pitch. And now Creswell has struggled at times against players that do cut in a lot on the left foot. That's the one type of winger I do feel gets the better of Creswell often. But I've got more confidence in him than I do in Emerson in that situation. So no, I've got absolutely no optimism whatsoever. But I'm hoping that when we do the Brentford preview, I do have optimism. I do have confidence off the back of what I see on Monday night. So, Gonzo, can I get any final words from yourself, plus your score prediction, please?
Yeah, this is a really hard one. But it was never going to be thus. It's been a really weird one to see looming because of the break that we've had this game to come back to. It was a really weird one to start the process of the limited number of games for David Moyes to keep his job. It's always going to be difficult to start with that. That being said, we come off the end of last season. The end of crappy against Crystal Palace, crappy against Leicester. Something's got to change. Something's got to give. If it doesn't, we lose them, and we'll probably lose quite comfortably by sort of 2 or 3-0.
I think I was going to go 2-0. I said, do you want to know the worst thing about the tip? I'm unsure Moyes will class that as a bad result. I'm not even taking the piss here. I genuinely think if Moyes could take a 1-0 defeat right now, I think he'd probably consider it, thinking that's all right, that's damage limitation. That other teams will go there and lose 2-3, 4-0. 1-0 will be all right with that.
But it's changed, Geo. This is the point, and this is why he has to realise the parameters have changed. Normally, it probably is. Well, actually, it ain't this time. That's what I'll be saying to him. Hey, actually, it ain't this time, mate. 'Cause that's your penultimate game. That's it. You lose against Brentford, you're gone. I'm pretty adamant
that won't be the
about
case, though, will it? That won't be the case. I think he can lose both, and he's still here for the Leeds game easily. I know you don't believe that, but I believe that. I think the only way Moyes goes in next 3 if he loses all 3. I think if he gets 1 point, I think he's probably still here for the following game as well.
Well, then the board will then bring all of the pressure onto themselves, because if you think that, if David Moyes has gone into these games, the uncertainty, with the certainty, not uncertainty, the certainty that he can lose 2 games, then he's had that messaging from the board. Then not only the board to blame, the board have allowed him that stay of execution. They've allowed him and the club to waste that time, and I would almost hold them in contempt for doing that.
And we will be live on Monday night with our build-up show on Boxing Day, an hour and 5 minutes before the kickoff. As we said earlier, if fans get involved with Betmate, pick your 6-a-side team. Do use the code HC10, get £10 free credit. The game is £5 to enter for Monday night, but you'll have £10 free credit. So it won't cost you a penny to get involved in this one. And you'll have some money left over for the Brentford game as well. But if you've enjoyed this preview, do drop a like on it by clicking thumbs up. Subscribing to the Hammers Chat. Myself and Gonzo, well, we'll catch you on Boxing Day.